Hi everyone, welcome to the Crypto Carlos Fandango channel. Here in my hands I've got a ReadyNAS 2100 from Netgear, but this will be going in the bin, so stay tuned to find out why. First up though, I'm unboxing the 5th ReadyNAS 2100 that I've recently purchased.
Welcome to
Okay, let's have a look in the box. It's arrived today. There's another ReadyNAS 2100 in here, and as we get it out you'll see why I've ordered it, and I'll explain a bit more about it. Every's done a great job of delivering it, and the box is somehow managed to get, well, it looks like mould all over it, and it's damaged on the one side, and also I'm never really 100% happy when something technical like this arrives in a box and it moves quite considerably inside, but let's hope it's wrapped well and that it hasn't been damaged in transit. So this is the 5th ReadyNAS 2100 that I've purchased. I have 4 in my data cabinet now. This one in here hopefully will be replacing one of those, and I'll explain why. Okay, so let's see what we've got in the box. Well, we have got a bit of packing, and it's been well bubble wrapped, so maybe we'll be all right. There's a bit of packing in the bottom like this as well for it to sit on. As long as they've not had the box upside down in the warehouse, it should be okay. So hopefully it's going to still be in one piece. Let's see how we get into here. There's a lot going on tape wise and bubble wrap wise here. Now, I actually negotiated a deal on this particular ReadyNAS because it is supplied without any hard drives and also without any of the caddies for the 4 bays. That's not a problem though, because the one I'm going to replace it with, I'm going to use the caddies and the drives out of that, because that particular ReadyNAS is not really usable anymore, because I made a rookie mistake after I'd taken delivery of it, and I'll be explaining to you what that mistake was and why it's now pretty much useless to me. Okay, that's one layer. Looks like we've got a couple more here and we'll be in. So I paid for this unit second hand on eBay. It's not the cheapest ReadyNAS I've purchased. I have managed to sort of haggle my way down to better deals, but this one was £115 without drive bays and caddies. So you can see it's fully exposed and open at the front. You can see in the light there. So I know that my drive bay is going to fit that fine. Everything else seems to be in order. I'm very glad to see it's already got the 19-inch rack mounts as well for the cabinet, so that's good. No other cables supplied, no power cable, no Ethernet cable, nothing like that. But she looks in good condition, still got some of the original wrapping on, which I might remove now because it's hanging off anyway. Get rid of that. That's better. Front panel looks good. Buttons all seem to be there, and the LED lights, it's nice and clean at the front, clean at the bottom. It's got the sticker on with the serial numbers, so I scrutinised this quite extensively to make sure that the version of the ReadyNAS was what I wanted. We've got the sticker on the front that's got all the other details on it. So next thing is to get that upstairs, get it on the test bench. We're going to fire it up, make sure it works, make sure that we can see it in the radar application, and make sure we can also call the software through the browser. At that point then, we're going to look at possibly upgrading it once I've confirmed it is the model that can accept that upgrade. And then hopefully get it in the data cabinet. So we'll go upstairs and do that now. Okay, we're up on the test bench now. Got both units here. The bottom unit is the new one that arrived without caddies or drives. The top one is a Netgear 2100 that is broken, and stay tuned to the end of the video to find out why and what I did that caused it to break. So what we're going to do is just transfer the caddies down. So what I've done is I've already gone through, I've got 3 of these drive bays populated with 2 terabyte drives, and because they've been running in this machine, they've been configured by the NAS, and obviously some software had been installed on them. It's not a good idea to move them down to another unit with that on. There's no other data that I needed to retain on there. So I've taken those into Windows Disk Manager and deleted the volumes that had been created by the NAS on there, so they're all empty now. And what I used to do that is this device here, which is a SATA, amongst other things. It's got a SATA connector in. It allows me to pop the drive in and Windows will see it, and I'll see it in Disk Manager, and then I can wipe it, clean it, format it, etc. Very cheap on eBay. I think I paid like 10 quid for this. It is a bit plasticky, but it does the job. You can get better ones if you look around. So all the drives have been cleared. As I say, I've only got 3 populated in here, so it's just a question of unlocking the drive caddies and moving them down into the other unit. Now, when I was mounting the drives in the SATA connector, USB connector to Windows, I did have to take them out of the caddy, and they are secured with screws. Now, what I would suggest is that you make sure you've got plenty of these screws for your drive caddies, because some of the faster drives will vibrate quite considerably in the unit, and if you want to keep noise levels down, especially if you're a residential miner like me, it's a good idea to make sure they are secure in these drive caddies. So make sure you've got plenty. And the screws you need to use, they're the sort of countersunk head ones, because you don't want anything with a rounded head or anything like that, especially if you're doing it on the sides, because you won't be able to put the caddy into the drive bay, and don't force it, because you will either damage the drive bay or the connector at the back if you do. So make sure you get the countersunk head. They're very short if you don't get them supplied with your caddies. But let's just continue putting these down. They are a little bit snug, but as I say, don't force them, just get them so that they're going in level. If for some reason they don't seem to be going in sufficiently enough that you can then lock the front panel, don't force them, but they should go in as long as you haven't got anything protruding from the outside of the drive. The SATA connector at the back of these drive bays, at the back of the ReadyNAS 2100, they look very flimsy. There's like a single weld on one side, so if you were to continue pushing it in, especially on an older unit, you could expect that to go at the back, and then you're going to have to open the unit. You're going to have to attempt some sort of weld to keep that backplane in place again, and that could cause issues with any other components in the unit. So just be very careful when you're working with these. Now, if you're not planning to change the drives, I will be, because I will be buying bigger drives once this unit is operational, and I will be upgrading it in the same manner I have with my other units. There is a locking pin here that you can just slide up, and that will mean that the ejector catch won't work. It'll be locked in place, so if you want to stop somebody from accidentally ejecting the drive caddy while it's in operation, you can switch that little switch up. Okay, so on the test bench here, I've got power to the unit, and I've got a single Ethernet cable running to the unit. That's all that's required. There are 2 Ethernet ports on the back, but we only need one for testing purposes. What I'm planning to do now is fire up the unit and make sure it's working. Let it start itself up and just tell me that yes, I'm healthy, and so are the drives that are in there. This version of the NAS has an older version of the radiator software on. I believe it's 4.2.31. Now this is a V2 unit, supposedly. I have to check, but it's a V2 unit, which means that I can, if I want to, do the same as I've done on my other 3 units, and that's apply an unsupported version of radiator up to 6.10.8. And what that allows you to do is to install larger drives in it, and it's a much nicer interface as well. So I will be checking that the unit can handle that upgrade and probably be attempting that. So we'll be doing that next. The other thing that I can suggest, if you've got many of these in your data cabinet like I have, it's a good idea to get one of these adhesive label printers, these cheap Dynamo printers, so that you can put the name of the actual server on it. It makes it a lot easier if you're trying to reference one in your data cabinet to something on screen that you want to do. So let's fire this up and see what happens, and then we'll go into Windows so that you can see the interface and what's happening with it. Okay, I had a little bit of a problem there, but I remember what the issue was. Because this is running a very old version of the radiator software, there are only certain browsers that will allow you to look at the admin section in the browser, and that's the reason, because of TLS protocol revisions. So the newer browsers only support like versions 1.1, 1.2. In order to talk to this version of Radiator, you need to use an older browser that supports earlier versions of TLS. So what I've done is I've used a version of Safari that does that, and you can see by putting the IP address and the admin path in, I've now got that version of the software up and running, and I'm pleased to say that the disk initialization has completed. The power light is on. It is now just going through creating the volume still, but we've got all the information we need. I can see, and I'm very pleased to see, that it definitely is a version 2 of the ReadyNAS 2100, and I will tell you why that's very important later. It's applying the X-RAID. You can see the firmware that's installed and the amount of memory. It's got a full gig of memory on there, so that's good. So at the moment we've got 3 disks, and we've got about 4 gigabytes in this RAID array. So there's 6 gig in total, but only 4 gig at the moment available. When I put another 2 terabyte disk in the last drive bay, that will increase. It will reconfigure itself, and hopefully should get around about 5.9 gigabytes. Sorry, 5.9 terabytes of available space, so I can immediately start plotting and improving my system. And then the plan is obviously to upgrade the disks in this over time as money becomes available, much as I have done with the other units. So let's just go through some bits and pieces here. So I'm not going to show you the configuration for the credentials for admin that I'm going to apply. I will do that off camera, obviously. But yes, you've got time servers you can link to, and so it keeps track of the date and time. You can see it's absolutely wrong here because we're in Canada and Tijuana at the moment, where I am not. I am in the UK, so we want the GMT 0, London, that one. So that should hopefully apply, and we should see the time change, because we are linking to time servers. That might take a while to pull that through. We might have to now it's gone back to Tijuana again because I didn't apply it. Okay, let's do that again and apply that. Now what I will be doing with this, obviously, because it is a V2 unit, it does mean it will support an upgrade, an unsupported upgrade, to 6.10.8 software, which is a lot better than this.
and I will be using that because it will allow me to create shares, create credentials on those shares, and get the NAS configured in my system. Right, that's updated the time. Good, that's great. Then it's going to start asking for email addresses, I think, if I remember right. Yes, that's right. You can put an email address in here. I have a standard email address set up where if any of my ReadyNAS 2100s have issues, they will send an email to that email address. It's monitored on my phone, so I get an alert straight away. And that can be for a number of reasons. It can be that something's gone wrong and it's decided to shut itself down, or there's been a disk failure, or it's warning you about the fact that you've used about 70% of your volume's data capacity, and that you should either increase it or stop creating data on it. Things like that. So I'll leave that blank for a minute. So this is right. So this is just details about the your network and what have you. So I'll skip over that. We won't be changing any of that, and I won't be doing that now. But basically, that's all you have to do for the initial setup. There is a lot more involved, and if you're thinking of using a Netgear product, I suggest, like the 2100, I suggest looking at the online documentation because it's quite extensive. You can download it in PDF format from their website and go through everything that these units can do, but I'm not going to cover that because it would take days. So we're going to cut it off there now. I am going to attempt the upgrade, hopefully all going well. We should see a new interface when I'm completed, and we can start to get this unit ready to go into the data cabinet. Okay, let's have a talk about the ReadyNAS 2100 now, and my thoughts on whether it is suitable for housing your CHIA plots and being accessed by your farmer harvester, and also plotted to by the CHIA blockchain software. As far as the unit goes, there seems to be 3 different versions of it that I can find documented. There's the bog standard 2100 coming in a flavour of V1 and V2, which is indicated within the front view software. In some cases it is also on a sticker on the outside of the unit. I'll explain why that's important. There also seems to be in the documentation, when you're looking at drive support, a version called a 2100-D. I can't find any further documentation on that. For the purposes of this presentation, we won't be looking at that. We'll only be concentrating on these 2 here. I'll be also telling you, where I have been able to find second-hand units for sale, and the type of cost and parts, etc. I'll also be telling you about the Netgear community support, because I have used this extensively, especially in the early days when I bought my first unit, and also during the issues I had, which I'll discuss in a moment as well. And then I'll just tell you about my overall experience with the unit and what I find good about it and bad about it. Okay, so first of all, let's have a look at the differences between the version 1 and the version 2 unit. And we're talking about the x86 versions here, which I believe were released early 2009. So with regards to the V1 unit, what you have to be very careful about when you purchase this unit is that you do not attempt any upgrade past the versions of FrontView OS 4.2.x. That could be the 28 or the 31 version, 0.28, 0.31 versions. And now I have to come clean and tell you this is why I messed up one of my NAS units. I purchased a V1 unit, was unaware of the difference between the V1 and the V2 unit, attempted the unsupported upgrade, which I'll be talking about in a moment, and that basically breaks it completely. It's basically, once it comes back, you haven't got access to the admin part of the front view application anymore in the browser. It's completely blank screen, you just get the frame. So you've got no access to any functionality at all, and it is due to the fact that it corrupts file called the VPD file, the vendor product description file, on the system. And this file contains Netgear's information about the unit. It's all encrypted, of course. It messes with that on the V1 machine and destroys it. And I'll tell you a little bit about the process I went through with Netgear to try and fix my big error in a little while. So if you do purchase a V1 unit, bear that in mind. That is all you're going to have as far as front view software, and there are some downsides to that. So drive support on this V1 model using that version of the front view software starts at 250 gigabytes and goes up to 3 terabytes, and that is it. That's as far as you can go. It does, however, have enterprise SATA support on the 2100. Previous versions, 1500, do not. The other problem you have with the V1 unit is because the version of FrontView is so old and its TLS protocol support is only up version 1.0, if you do want to administer it, you have to use a very old browser version, either a Microsoft Internet Explorer version, a Firefox version, some very old Chrome versions. I have had success with some old Safari versions as well, but TLS is a security protocol, and so this is why I steer clear of this unit now. I don't want to have one of these units on my network because it isn't upgradable, and because I have to access the admin facilities using unsupported browser types now. So something else to be aware of. You can view the unit in the I think it's probably the latest version of Radar 6.5.0. so this is the little application you can run that analyzes your network and highlights any Netgear ReadyNAS systems that are running on that network, tells you the state of the disks, gives you access to the admin facility and things like that. You can see a V1 unit in that. It does give you a browse button within there, so you can actually browse the file structure, and because I messed up my V1 by trying to upgrade it, it was stuck in a DLNA sort of version, so I had media folders that were presented to me. I could still see those, but I couldn't administer any of the box at all. So whilst you can probably pick these up very cheap, around £100 with the drive caddies, but maybe not drives in them, it's up to you whether you purchase one or not, really. Yes, it's cheap file storage, but it's going to be difficult to work with, and especially if you want to store large amounts of data like we do with CHIA farming. 3 terabyte drives rated, it's only going to give you about 8.9 terabyte to play with if you've got a fully populated 4 drive bays. So not for me that. I won't be looking at these anymore. As I say, I purchased one by mistake and upgraded it by mistake, but these are the units that I'm looking at now, the V2s. And the latest one that I purchased that you saw at the beginning of this video, that is definitely a V2. It was in the screenshots, I could see the version that was listed in FrontView software, so I was confident that I could buy this and upgrade it. So the V2 units are upgradable by an unsupported path. You can look at one of my further videos on this. I've done another video showing you how I upgraded this particular V2 unit up to 6.10.8 by first doing an unsupported upgrade to 6.95 manually on the unit. Very easy to do, but fraught with danger, so watch that video before you attempt anything like this. And yes, further upgradable to 6.10.8, which I think was the last version after you have upgraded it to 6.9.5 through the front view interface. So that's the one good thing about the V2 units. You can get a nice new GUI with enhanced features. It's a lot easier to handle, and you know, it's just better. There isn't any published drive support for a 2100 that you have upgraded using this unsupported path. So once again, every unit could be different. I was fortunate in that I managed to find 4 second-hand Western Digital Red 8TB enterprise drives, and I have got those working in one of my units. I have upgraded it using hot swap, and it has resynced itself each time I've added a drive, and I now have those 4 drives running in it. As the only issue I've had is a little bit of instability when I've tried to fully populate the amount of RAID drive space that is available, and I believe this is due to the volume having been created on a 3TB drive system, and ideally I need to get the data off of that system and then recreate a new volume based on the 8TB drives, and everything should be stable. But that's the only issue I've had. It's about 75% full now with data, and I've left it like that, and it's been very stable. So anything enterprise-wise 8TB is possible, but as I say, it's not documented, it's not supported, so you'll need to make your own decisions what you put in a V2 system if you do upgrade it like this. Yes, so enterprise SATA support, same as the other version. The other benefit obviously is that current browsers will allow you to administer the systems via the front view application in the browser, so that's one good thing. You don't have to go hunting around for old versions of browsers to allow you in, and I believe this must be down to the TLS support, although I haven't looked into it extensively. Now, there are supposedly some additional things you get with this upgrade: Active Directory, NFS, you can do SSH without a plugin now, I believe, although I've done it, I just use PuTTY to access my NAS drive if I have to from the command line. And there's a whole suite of new plugins in there as well. Also, apparently upgraded antivirus. I did use this in the early days, but once my system was locked down in a read-only state, and it was just the CHIA software reading the CHIA plots from the NAS box, I turned the antivirus off. I left the antivirus active during the plotting stage. So it works. Every day it used to upgrade the antivirus and do whatever checks it did. It quite possibly might have had a little bit of degradation on performance, but not very noticeable. And yes, the V2 units also work with Radar 6.5.0 as well, as the previous unit does. So those are the main differences. As I say, I'm steering clear of these. Do your own research if you decide to buy a V1 and use it for CHIA plotting storage. But the V2s are what I'm concentrating on at the moment. Quite possibly some other ReadyNAS products as well, further and above the 2100 series, because there's good drive support on those, but I haven't looked at those yet. Okay, where can you buy one? Well, obviously they're very old units. They've been around a long time. The only place I have managed to find them is on eBay. There seems to be a plethora of second-hand units available across Europe. I'm seeing a lot coming from the UK, a lot coming from Germany, and many from the United States as well. Obviously the ones from the United States seem to be a little bit more expensive because the shipping costs are quite high. But if you're looking to get one from the UK, I've seen them advertised currently at around the £180 price mark, and some of these units are coming either with or without drives, or the drive caddies. I have seen some for around £200, £275 that are populated with at least 4 4TB drives. So that gives you a 16TB disk array to RAID. which isn't bad, but it's a little bit pricey at that end for the age of the machine. But yes, 180 quid will get you an empty machine, basically a version 2. There's a variety of spares, power supplies, caddies and fans. Power supplies around the £70 mark. Caddies, you can usually get the 4 for 35 quid or somewhere around that mark. Fans are quite expensive. They usually come in a pair, and they're around about £80. I've seen them orderable from the United States. I have looked around to see if I can find and source these fans somewhere else, which I've been unable to do at the moment, because apparently the versions that you can get from the States are a new version that quietens the system down. Now the problem is there's £80 a pair, and there are 6 inside each of your ReadyNAS 2100s. So quite an expensive upgrade if you want to attempt it. So let's hope the fans don't wear out very quickly. Supposedly the ones I have now have been in the unit since day one, so for the age of the unit I can't complain that they're not making a lot of noise, so really good. Amazon, I couldn't find any listings for these older units, second hand or otherwise, but there were other newer versions of the 19-inch rack mount units that were in the £1,000 plus range. So there are newer versions, probably with larger disk support, that you could pick up if you have the funds available. So the best thing to do is do the same as I do, and I just keep a daily eye out for new listings on eBay, watch some of the items just to see what the interest level is in them, to see if I can do any negotiating on price, if there's a button that says I can make an offer, which usually there is, but just keep having a look, because a lot of this hardware seems to be being decommissioned at the moment from production environments, in offices, and you see a lot of them coming on to eBay, and they will tell you, yes, this has been actively used in a production environment, it's working because it's only just been pulled out, it's only been pulled out because it's out of support, blah blah blah. So just keep an eye out in there, and as I say, the units are quite old. Negotiate on price. I have made some good deals on them. Okay, the Netgear community. This is the URL for it. It's a searchable database of all Netgear products and various support requests by people who don't have paid support with Netgear. So there's a lot of information in there. There's a lot of threads on issues that you may encounter in the future. I certainly found some useful stuff in there, but I have had to raise some support tickets myself and rely on some good people out there to give me some information. If you want to have a look at the one issue that I had a problem with, log into the community at .netgear.com website. You will have to make an account, but have a look for my username, which is Fandango2022, and search for this ReadyNAS 2100 front view blank page firmware 4.2.31 or similar. You'll find about a 3-page thread on this item. This is where I upgraded the V1 by mistake and lost access to the administration functions of front view and ruined the VPD file. So there are a lot of bits and pieces in that thread, suggestions and some tips and tricks and links to various bits and pieces that might be useful to you. One of the things you may find useful is how to try and fix a ReadyNAS where you have broken the VPD file. It is possible to copy from another version 1 system onto the broken one, and in some cases they say possible to get it up and running again, although it will identify itself as the same machine of the parent BPD file. But yeah, a lot of information in there, worth reading if you have time. So all of these problems listed in there were issues encountered by that unofficial upgrade that I tried on a V1, which just shouldn't have been attempted at all. So remember that. I found the community there very helpful. There is a number of experts in there, some Netgear moderators as well that could be called on, and they really did try everything they could to help me. So kudos to all of them, and thanks for their help in trying to get my unit repaired that was broken by my own stupidity. We didn't manage to get it fixed in the end. I gave up in the end, and I'm reusing the parts out of it. So basically I've reused the caddies out of it because the last Netgear 2100 I bought didn't have any caddies, so it's been useful in that respect. The rest of it I will keep for spares. I've got spare rack mount ears on it. There's memory inside, fans, any parts that go in my other 4 Netgear 2100s I may be able to find bits and pieces within it, so I'll be hanging on to it. So very useful advice from the experts and Netgear moderators on there. Loads of tips and tricks you can search for in their database if you've got something specific you want to do. And it's free support, so it's a really excellent community for finding information about these old systems that you can't get paid support for at the moment. Okay, so my overall experience with the 2100 V2 then. So once this last version goes into my data cabinet, I'll have 4 of those. And that's my cabinet full then. So the operating system, the 6 Plus operating system, it is great. I love it. It's a lot cleaner than the older version, the OS 4 versions. Everything's easy to find. It's responsive. There's lots of information in there. You can get very quick access to share information, volume information, backup information, your log files, configuration for alerts and things like that. It's all in there, and it's all easily accessible and visible in a very good manner. So that's the one brilliant thing I like. The system seems to be very stable. I've had them running now for just over 4.5 months, 24 hours a day, continuously. So I'm estimating about a 95% uptime over the 3 units that are currently running in there. The only time that those units have gone down is when I've done maintenance. So I've had to install other units in the cabinet, or I've been recabling, cleaning, things like that. So they haven't gone down on their own at all. I did have a drive failure. I bought a brand new 8TB Western Digital Red drive, put it into the unit, and it seemed to be struggling with it extensively. It couldn't work with it, and I did have that NAS say, I've had enough, I'm going to try and reboot. But that was once, and I've not had them reboot on their own at all, or shut down, or anything like that, which is brilliant. The RAID support is good on them. The RAID support increases as you add drives in. So if you add 1 drive in, you're on RAID 0, and then you start to get some redundancy as you add more and more drives in. They're hot swappable once you're on RAID 5 and you've got 4 disks in, which is brilliant because you don't even have to turn the unit off. You can, as I have done, just pull out one of the 3TB drives and put an 8TB replacement in, and the system will access that, configure itself. It will then ask to be rebooted, but it seems to deal with it very well. When you are upgrading drives, there is a resyncing process that goes on. This can take a massive amount of time, depending on how much data you've got on the drives that are already in there. It can take a long time. I've had some running for 2 days before they've resynced completely, and the NAS has reported that it's now happy and the volume is not degraded. So yes, during resyncing, performance is degraded, but hardly noticeable, to be honest. I was still able to farm and harvest CHIA plots from the NAS. You could just see that there was a slight delays when trying to access the front view application, but it didn't seem to affect the harvesting or farming. But I would not create plots on a NAS where you are resyncing, so where you've upgraded a drive and it's in the process of resyncing. Do not continue to put plots in, because you're creating a moving target for it all the time. You know, it's just getting itself sorted, and then you're adding more data and it's having to start again. So you just prolong the agony of waiting for the resync if you continue to plot. So I normally halt all plotting when I'm upgrading the drives. There's good documentation, excellent documentation for the 2100 series that explains absolutely everything with diagrams. Easy explains all the features and everything you can do with the front panel, which there is quite a lot you can do. Just great documentation, as there should be. Yes, I like it because it's affordable and reliable. I didn't want to spend too much on my sort of CHIA ecosystem, not as much as I spent on my GPU mining rigs, definitely. And so it has been quite affordable, as I say, around I would say I've paid between 120 and £200 for each unit, some with drives, so very reasonably priced, I think, for the second-hand unit. And as I say, they are reliable, so I've got confidence they've still got a bit of life in them. They also work well with a UPS. I've got a UPS in my system, and the reason I put it in there is that I wanted to just protect myself in the case of an electricity blackout. In the UK, we've been threatening them for quite a while, especially during the winter. So I thought, I don't want the whole system to just be turned off, you know, with a plot being created, or worse still, plots being written to the NAS drives and get corrupted data and have to sort it all out. So I thought with the addition of a UPS that could handle what was in the data cabinet, and currently that's just sort of flicking between 25 and 50% of the UPS capability. It gives me a good hour to shut down the other ReadyNAS systems in a controlled manner. Just leave the one that is being plotted to, and hopefully that will continue up until the point the electric comes back on. So I have had one instance of that about 3 months ago, and the system handled it fine. Everything just carried on as normal. The ReadyNAS just continued without issue, and it was really good. And also the UPS, I don't know if all UPSs have this facility, but mine is a reload, and it has an eco setting. And what I found is I can normally knock about 40 watts off the at the wall wattage by switching to the eco setting, and I haven't seen a degradation in performance when I do that. The only downside is that eco setting does kick in a bit more fan noise from the UPS, which is a little bit unbearable at night, so I don't run the eco setting at night time. But during the day I can save some wattage, and it doesn't seem to affect the operation of the units at all. So noise levels, as I say, I'm in a residential setting. I'm going to have 4 of these units when I get the last one in. The UPS, I've got a switch as well, a fanless switch, and 2 powered extraction fans in the cabinet. And I'm popping out at about 40 to 45 dB from that whole unit, which is bearable. sometimes a little quieter. It depends what's going on. As I say here, when the systems are starting up, you do get some excessive fan noise while they're kicking in, but that soon dies down and quietens down once they have started up. During high processing times like resync operations and that, you can hear a little bit extra fan noise as well, and also from the drives. Obviously, the faster the drives you've got in the system, so the Enterprise 7200 RPM ones, they make a lot more noise than the 5400s. Yeah, seem to be suitable for a residential setting, not getting a lot of excessive noise from the data cabinet. Believe it or not, I'm talking to you now and I'm barely 2 foot from the unit. I don't know if you can hear the background noise from it, but it's not causing any issues. Temperature wise, well, depending on what's going on, if you're writing to a drive, writing a plot to a drive, or a unit is going through resyncing, the temperature in my cabinet will rise up slightly. I mean, it's mid-February now, mid to end of February. My cabinet is telling me it's 24 degrees C inside, and it normally stays about that. If the temperature drops, ambient temperature drops, it goes down to anything down to 21 at the moment. Obviously in the summer it's a different kettle of fish. We're going up into the high 20s then and above sometimes. But I'm exploring possibly putting some other cooling into the room, maybe a cheap air conditioning unit for when we get the extreme summer temperatures, just to keep the ambient temperature down and keep that unit cool. Okay, so that is my experience with the ReadyNAS 2100 V2s. Overall, I like them. I think I've made wise purchases in them, and they obviously work for CHIA farming, because a few days ago, I don't know if you saw the video, I won my first block. So that's proof that the system I put together works. I should expand it. So all in all, it's a big thumbs up for the 2100. Okay, it's been some time, but we're back now. The resyncing after the first update to 6.9.5 OS version took about 4 to 6 hours. I've only got 2 terabyte drives in the system at the moment, but the resyncing operation took a long time to complete. So that's only just finished. After that, I was able to fire up the browser using latest versions of browser, so I'm in Chrome, and get in via using a different admin password that is actually written on the bottom of the Netgear unit itself. The default username and password for access to the admin utility are written on a sticker on the back of the units, but that is only applicable to OS versions 4.2.x. It actually changes to just admin and password by default for anything OS 6. So I had to use that to get into OS 6, which was by default on 6.9.5, because that was the upgrade path we'd used. And as soon as I got in, I got a notification that there was a later update to 6.10.8 available, which I actioned, and it took all of 5 minutes to install that. So you can see now the firmware is on 6.10.8, and that is the same as my other 3 ReadyNAS 2100s, so they're all at the same level now. Because I'm going to be moving CHIA plots to this new NAS, I have switched on antivirus for the data and the OS, just for the period while I'm filling the drives, and this will probably continue while I'm expanding the drives as well with larger versions. and once the unit becomes complete and read-only, I will disable that and turn that off. So everything is set up. I have got some issues with the alerting system. For some reason it's not recognising the email address that I have set up that my other NASs are communicating with, so I still have that to investigate, but apart from that, it's now going to move into the rack and become operational. So I won't bore you with those details because it's going to take me a while to fit everything back in the cabinet, but I might give you an update at a later date. But I'm going to be hopefully by tomorrow plotting CHIA to it and expanding my CHIA ecosystem. So thanks for watching. I hope you found something useful and of interest in this video. I know it was a bit jumbled around, but I was just trying to cover as much as I could. And please do watch out for the video that comes at the end of this presentation as a suggestion, because that video is the step-by-step guide to performing the update of a 4.2.x OS system to a 6.10.8 via the 6.9.5 path. That unsupported upgrade that's only available to be done on V2 units. I go into a lot of detail in there about that, and you should be able to see what's been done there. Okay, so please subscribe to the channel, put a thumbs up and like it if you found something in the video you liked, and I'll see you next time.